Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I am your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, and today we are assembling the Dark Reflections box, which I don't have a box for, but that's alright. You've probably seen the thumbnail already, so you know what the box looks like. It contains 5 models, 2 Brocken Spectres, which are pretty big, and then 3 Nocturnes, which are considerably smaller, but I believe this box is going to be considerably difficult than the Ivan Core box, but we'll see about that. Anyways, well, but this is the Umber keyword. It goes along with the DUA keyword, and English Ivan is the master. Anyways, now let's look at the sprues. Alright, here are our Brocken Spectres. You can see there's just a lot of bits to them, both of them. So this is going to be a fairly complex build. Just get ready, prepare yourself. This is our first one, Brocken Spectre 1. It's got the A-labeled bits. And now let's go through assumed assembly. We'll grab the main body first, and then we'll add the bits of flowing skirt to it. So this bit and this bit. And then I believe we will add the shoulders, as well as the head, and then the tongue. We'll do the left arm, the right arm, the additional flowing cape that's like connected to the right arm, and then we'll figure out which chain goes where. All right, so let's go ahead and clip out A3 first, followed by, I believe that's A4, yeah, A4, and A8 after that. All right, here's our lovely body, but A4 is actually... Good job. A4 is going to go on the back here at the very bottom when you see that big old gap. I'll show you how it goes. Alright, here's A4. It's inserted. It's going to pretty much cover up the entire left side of that big gap in the bottom of our Brocken Spectre, and less so on the right side, but that's what A8 is for. So A8 is going to just jam right in here and cover up the rest of the hole. Okay, it went in alright. I recommend putting cement on both bits, the body and A8, as it's kind of hard to get force going up that way without popping it out of place. So putting cement on both sides means it's more easy to make a solid connection without having to apply as much force. Alright, so now let's grab ourselves a 7, a sort of shoulders collar thing. Yeah, we're looking at A7. Yep, A7 here. The part that's going to connect to the body is like right here, but before I glue it on, I just want to point out that the left arm is going to connect right in there. It's going to be a lot harder to see when we get around to connecting the arm, so I just wanted to point that out right now. So I vaguely recall having the hard time putting the arms in because I put this on first, so I went and tore it off. We're actually going to do the arms first, alright? So A5 is our left arm. It's going to go in that hole that I pointed to. You know, that one. There we go. Alright, there it is. As long as you understand how thumbs are supposed to work, you'll know the general orientation. There is, it's relatively easy to figure out how exactly it's supposed to orientate. It slots in nicely, so just wiggle it around, spin it around, eventually you'll get a good angle. But now we'll do, I don't know if I called this a left or right arm. This is a left arm anyways. We're going to do the right arm. We need the body for that, because that is going to go right here in this big spot. It's A10. A10 is going to be our right arm right here, and then A11 is going to be an extra bit of cloth, which is going to go right here, and we'll also connect to the right arm bit. And I forgot to point it out, but there is a big old tooth and groove connection, the tooth being on the A10 bit here, and the groove being on the body, but it is a nice, relatively easy connection. But now let's do A11, which is, as I said, going to go right in here, and it will connect to this bit of cloth on the arm. And there's a nice lovely tooth on A11 that will connect to the body. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, now let's add the big old collar plus the left arm onto the front here. Okay, so that's what it looks like on the fronts, and then you can see how the arms are tucked in there nicely. Yeah, this was the right decision to do the arms before we connected those two bits. But now we can move on to the rest of the head. Heck yes. A6 is our next bit. It's going to go right, right here. Blah. Yeah, almost completely done. We just now have the tongue left. Oh, we got the chains too. Can't forget the chains. But the tongue is A9, and that will go where tongues are supposed to go. I should have probably also specified that it is not just his tongue, but also his lower jaw. So you'll have this little chunk down here, and that goes beneath the tongue. I had to kind of nudge mine into place with a knife, so be aware of that. It might be a little finicky to get all the way in there and looking correctly, but he looks good now, so give me a second to figure out these chains. Alright, got it figured out. So for one, we were looking at this particular bit head on, as we would if it was on the model. So you can kind of see how the base is. You got these gears on either side of the chain. That's, if we're staring at the model in the face, this is the orientation we'll be seeing. So also you'll notice it's going backwards because the whole thing has to fit on a 50mm base, so the little stand things are not going to be shooting forward. They're going to be kind of oriented back so that they'll be right next to the body, not take up as much space. So you can also see the chains going ever so slightly to our right, which would indicate that this is on his right. So oh, just throw the model, Doug. Good job. So this one's going to actually connect there, and then A2 up there is going to be on our left side. So let's go ahead and start with A1 on his right side. Okay, so you can see kind of that this has got some detail to it that doesn't really look like it's supposed to be part of the detail model. It's because this is a connection point as well as the ridge of this second link here. And that is going to go into right here. That's the connection point. You kind of see that where the chain starts on his collar, it's just going to be a continuation of that. Yeah, I was partially wrong on that. I mean, it looks good. It's in the right spot, but the ridge of the second link is not what that connection point is connecting to. It's actually just the side of the first link. Right there. So this looks good. When you get it in there and you think it's got it right, just, sit them on the ground and make sure that stand is either flat or close to being flat on the ground. And then you should be good, because you don't want it like popping up, obviously. You want it being connected to your base. So that's great. Now let's work on A2, which you can see there's more connection here on this one, as well as this little ridge here, which will be probably connecting to some link, a chain link of some kind. And similar scenario, this is going to be our orientation. It's going to go ahead and jam right up in there. Yeah, that's pretty much how it's going to sit. So I'll glue it. There we go. But yeah, once you get it in there, just put pressure on it with your pokey device of choice, and that should really slot in there pretty solidly. And again, just check and make sure this is flat along with the rest of the body. He's all done. Let's get him on a base. Yeah. Brocken Spectre number 1 is done. We're going to call this one Shorts. Yeah, hardest part was honestly the left arm, trying to get it centered in its socket after knocking it out of place. My bad. And yeah, getting the chains on there was also not terribly easy, but if you knew where the connection point is, shouldn't be too hard for you. And the tongue. The tongue, the chains, and the left arm. As well as making sure that you put the right arm on the body and the left arm on the head before you combine them together. So lots of things to keep in mind, but you got this. I believe in you. Let's move on to the next Brocken Spectre. Whew. Okay, Brocken Spectre number 2. This is going to be in a weird assembly order because I'm trying to remember the last time I built these. I know it was pretty difficult, especially with the arms getting them in correctly. As I mentioned previously, the left arm ended up being pretty difficult on the last one to get it to set, so we're going to be extra cautious around said arms. I do know that we should be getting the rest of the body assembled first, and then we'll do the arms last, but also we will do the chains and add them to the arms as well as the bases before we put the arms in, because knowing that those are flat on the ground is a good way to ensure that your orientation of the arms are correct. Blah. So let's grab B6, our body, first, and we will work from the bottom up, I guess. So we'll add our extra bits of cloth here onto the body, and then do the collar, the head, and the tongue. All right, so B6 first, and then we will add B4 after that, followed by B10. Okay? All right, we have one Brocken body, and our first bit, A4, is going to go right in this hole. It's just going to be flown along with the rest of the robes. Good start. It'll just slide up in there and wedge in nice and tight. No complaints about putting that in there. Now, B10 is going to be in this nice big tooth right here, so it should be pretty easy for you to figure out. Pretty much just going to cover up his entire armpit. But, yeah, that was pretty easy. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the collar, which is B3, and it's going to cover up most of this hole right here. There's like 7 little canisters on it, and the gap is going to be on the bottom. So we're looking at the orientation correctly here. Well, I think this will be turned around. You can see the hole back there, which will connect to that tooth on the back of the head. All right, B3. One quick dry fit layer, and I realized I could describe it a lot easier. It's going to be covering up the top part of the hole here, pretty much not this bottom part, but you can see a nice connection point right here. That's going to be one of those canisters. Yeah. Alright, so I'm always willing to admit when I got the order wrong, but we actually want to add the head to this first because it sort of intertwines with the collar, and it's really hard to get to snap into place if you do it in the order I thought it was going to go in. So let's add these together. There we go. Now, the thing that you're looking for here, which was really hard to do the other way, is that the sort of cloth here kind of cradles this one canister on the collar. So if you look at it from the back, they're intertwined, which would make it very hard to jam the head on if this was connected to the body. So now you can connect all this to the body. All right, that was a lot easier. Now let's grab B8, the tongue, and jam it in there and just use the render as a reference, or what the result does after this video clips over with. Actually have a little bit of noise on it. It's really hard to see on camera, but there is a sort of ridge here that indicates where the lower jaw stops. So you're looking at this connection point to be, on the lower jaw, and then this flat edge right here to be at the back of the mouth, as flush as possible. Mr. Spectre, how many looks does it take to get to the center of a human soul? Yeah, again, magical patented pokey stick solves any sort of real issue you had with the tongue, getting it oriented correctly. Anyway, let's move on to the arms and getting those all squared away before we add them onto the body. Okay, so we've got left arm here and a right arm here. The left arm is going to be connected to the shorter chain. The right arm is going to be connected to the longer chain. And as well as the bases, which we can't really see in this orientation, you'll notice one of them has the connection, or the sort of, how do I say this? If you look at it like this, you can kind of get a sense of direction where the train's going. This one has it going to more of an extreme angle than this one here. So this is going to be connecting to the long chain on the right arm, and this is going to be connecting to the short chain on the left arm. So let's go ahead and build the left arm first. I'm trying to remember the orientation that we had it before. I think we're good. So we'll get B11. We'll connect it to B2, and then I think B7 was the... Nope. B9. Okay, so B11, B2, B9. So we've got B11, we got B2. As far as orientation, you're looking at it correctly from the model head on. As long as you got this peg here pointed straight up, put these two together like so. That's how you want it to be. Okay, I had to backtrack a whole ton because I got my bases mixed up. This is not an easy kit, I fully admit that. But so this is what we're looking at for the two bases. Yes, I got as far as gluing them, and then I realized I was wrong. So I thought this guy, with the connection point being mostly vertical, is supposed to go on the left arm that has the chain that isn't at such a weird angle. That is incorrect. Actually, this is going to be connecting to the chain that's on the right arm. This is the one that connects to the chain on the left arm, and the reason I figured that out is there's actually a connection point on the bottom of the model, and that is why this one does not have the dots that go around the entire circumference of the base. So this is what we're going to be connecting to our chain here on the left arm. And I apologize, I don't remember what the bit number was, but I mean the missing studs is going to be a big indicator that this is the one that we're going to be using. And I believe it should go in that way, but also, yeah, I'll go and glue that off camera, but we're looking at our lovely man's butt. And you can see where it connects right along here. These nice curves. That's going to be our base is going to go. And while we're at it, the arm is going to go ahead and connect in here. You can see where I had to pull it out. And it's pretty much gluing to the tattered clothes as well as inside this kind of nice hole there. So those are going to be our 2 points of connection. I'll show you what the arm and the chain and the base look like first. There we are, that should be roughly the orientation. Now glue it in like that. There we go, that's real nice and solid. You can see the arm connection. That's kind of going in between these two flaps of fabric, but also how our lovely base is connected to his butt. That is real nice and solid. Hooray. Now let's move on to the right arm. Right arm's going to be a lot easier to figure out. Grab B12. We add B1 to it, connecting it at the wrist up there. Hi, Wednesday. Could you be a little bit quieter, please? And then our base is going to be B7. Alright, we got our arm. Chain's going to go in the exact same way it did with the left arm, just making sure that it is going sort of across his body. So that's the orientation we're looking for. And there we have it connected. Just make sure it's nice and flat against this bar. There's no gaps. There we go. Now let's just add it to the base. Okay, now let's figure out how we're going to connect our right arm's chain with our remaining base. You can see on the base there are two sort of gears, and one is slightly shorter than the other. I believe the shorter one is going to be closer to the body of the Brocken Spectre, and that's because the chain is going to be sort of pulled over the top of that, so that's kind of the orientation will look like. If I let go, my fingers are going to fall off, but I'm going to glue it just like that. Okay? And there we go. Okay. Let's figure out how to get it on his body now. Alright, so this has been one of the hardest connections I've ever had to figure out on this program. So let me show you how I got it sorted, and it's real wonky. I will try to explain it as best as I can. So our arm here, oops, has got this lovely groove right here. That's a connection point because arms don't really have this big old dent in your tricep like that. That is going to connect with sort of this ridge right here. And then the rest of the arm is just going to sort of follow the orientation of this flap of cloth right here. So basically, I'm going to do this on camera. it's going to go like that. You see how that kind of fits nicely? It sort of looks like the arm is appearing out of nowhere, but I believe this little ridge right there is supposed to be like the beginning of the arm coming out of the cloth, but that is the nicest connection point I can find. It fits relatively snugly, and once it's got cement on it, it should reduce that gap a little bit. But once you got that on there, just make sure the bottom of this base fits flat on the ground, and I think it should work fine. So let's get that glued. Oh, hell yeah. That looks good. That looks good. The base is going to be flat on the ground. It's really hard to show because if you just let him, he's going to fall over. He's drunk. But we appreciate him anyway. No, we don't appreciate him. This was difficult to put together. Let's get him on a base, and then I can complain. Brocken Spectre number 2 is complete. We're going to call this one Growl. Ugh. Well, I got it figured out. It took a bit of pulling apart and redoing a lot of my instructions, but yeah, I'm pretty confident with all of those bits. Obviously, the bases and the chains and the arms being the major hard part of that, and seating the right arm in the right place. Well, finding it in the first place was really hard. But you can see you got a good image of it now, as well as where I told you to put it. Shouldn't be the most difficult thing for you. And we're done with the really, really hard ones. Great, awesome. Let's move on to the Nocturnes now. Our other set of minions, the Nocturnes, hopefully going to be slightly easier. Here's our sprues. Our first one is going to be up to here, the C bits. Then we have the D bits over here, and then our third one, the E bits. So let's get started on this guy, who's, I believe, the hardest of the bunch. And that's primarily because he's got this tiny little thorax, the goober. Anyways, let's start by cutting out to the abdomen. Yep. Then we'll add the very back legs, which are these ones. Then we'll add the middle set of legs, which are these ones. Then we're going to set that entire thing aside. We're going to cut out the thorax. We'll add the head, and then the 2 front legs, and once those those 4 bits are combined, we will stack them with the abdomen and call it a day on the first Nocturne. I got C5, arm, abdomen, then we're going to do C6, the back legs, just going to go right along this bottom ridge here. There it is. Dry fitting will tell you that there's only one orientation for these legs. And that's it. So now we're going to do C4, which is going to go in this upper ridge, the middle set of legs. There we be. Again, there's only one orientation that'll allow it to actually slot in correctly. So easy peasy. So we're done with the bottom half. Let's start working on the top half. Grab C3, the thorax. Here it is, and we're going to be very gentle with these next assemblies just because it's small parts on small parts. Let's not knock anything out of place or just lose something in our carpet, right? So let's grab C7, which is our head. Also, we're looking at this thing head on. These little flaming things are on the back of the model. So our head, once we add it, will be looking at us. Oh, yeah, the head is supposed to be ever so slightly tilted to one side. You can always check the 2 connection points on the back of the neck and make sure everything's covered up. Now let's get our 4 legs in, and then we can finish him. C2 is going to be his right arm, and C1 is going to be his left arm. C2 is in, went in fairly easily, I believe. C1 is also going to be pretty easy. Let's put that in. And there it be. Again, your connection points aren't supposed to be flush and seamless with this. It's a bug. So, well, chitinous plates or whatever. But yeah, that's good. Now let's just stack them on the abdomen and we'll be done. That was hard. You know that warning I said about making sure you don't knock bits out of place on the thorax? I did that. And then I had to redo like the whole thing. So great. Good job, Doug. But hopefully my pain will save you pain of your own. I do definitely recommend having some tweezers to sort of do a bit of nudging once he's on there, because it's going to take a long time for that to cure enough that it isn't going to wiggle around. So just be cautious and patient, and you'll have him done. So get him on a base now. Nocturne number 1 is done. My brain is fried, so we're just going to call this one Mantis. Because it's a big praying mantis. Yeah. Just making sure stuff cures for solidly before you continue on building. Really make sure the head and the forelegs are on there, cured, rock hard, before you connect the top half with the bottom half. Those are the big pain points. Moving on. Alright, on to our second Nocturne. Should be a little bit easier. So we're going to go ahead and put the two halves of the body together, and then grab the two bits that are kind of covered, fit into these big old gaps. So I believe this one and this one. Then the other set of forelegs, this one and this one. And finally we'll do the back feet, which are these two. Alright. Grab D1 and D3 first. Combine them. Alright, we have a body of a Nocturne. Hooray. Now, let's grab a D6, which is, orientation. D6, which is going to be on our Nocturne's left side, and then a D5, or D8. D8 is going to be our Nocturne's right side. Alright, this is D6 added, and now let's add D8. Voila, D8 is in. Now, let's go ahead and set him down. Excuse me. D7 is going to be our front left leg that we haven't added. And then, goodness, D4 perhaps is going to be our front right leg that we haven't added. So D7, D4. There's D7 in its proper place. Now let's add D4. Okay, for our last bits, D2 and D5, got to figure out which one goes where. First, we've got to get our camera to focus, but if you look at the connection points, both of them have this sort of notch towards the center of the model, and those are reflected on the bits. So this is like our stump for our left leg and our stump for our right leg, and then you see that this one has this notch here, and this one has this notch right here. So this will be our left leg, and this will be our right leg. So D2 and then D5. D2. And then D5. Let's get him on a base. Nocturne number 2 is done. We're going to call this one Doggo. Hardest part were the back legs, just because those are the smallest connection points. Other than that, easy build. Hooray. Something easy. So happy. Let's finish this off with our last Nocturne, shall we? Okay, finally, on to our last Nocturne. We're going to go ahead and grab the body, and then we'll do the back two legs. I believe this is our back right leg and our back left leg. And then the front legs, I believe this is our front right leg and then our front left leg. And we'll combine the two halves of the head and then glue that on the body and call it good. Right. So let's grab E4 first and then do E7, our back right leg. Okay, we got our body properly oriented, and now E7 is going to go back here. Focus that better. There we go. Now, orientation isn't intuitive, but that's how it's supposed to look. So now we can do E2, our back left leg. Yep. Gonna go right in there. Okay. We've got both legs done now. Now we are going to switch over to our front legs. E3 is going to be our front right leg, and then E1 is going to be our front left leg. There's E3 fitting in easily. Now E1. Yeah, also easy. Now combine the both halves of the head, E5 and 6, I believe. There he is. Happy smiley face. Yay. Now jam that on the body. There we are. He is all done. Get him on a base. We are done with the third and final Nocturne. We're going to call this one Sloth, because of the sloth. Hardest part was actually, I missed two different bits of flash that were on connection points. So just missing those and not remembering to trim them. There's one that's on the neck that's really bad, so keep an eye out for that. But no difficulty with the assembly. Finally, an easy model will wrap things up. Let's look at the whole box. And we are done with the Dark Reflections box. We have 2 Brocken Spectres and 3 Nocturnes. This box was really difficult, one of the hardest ones I've had to assemble on this channel. I hope it's extremely helpful, because it was not easy for me. Hope it made it at least slightly easy for you. Best of luck. Especially with figuring out the arms on both of the Brocken Spectres, and just being very patient with the Mantis. Those 3 models were the hardest ones there. But I think I'm done with my advice. I wish you the best night, because I've been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux. Goodbye.